You might not be able to tell it by looking at me in my videos, but I am somebody who works out pretty regularly. I'm about to go into the gym. This is going to be my second workout this week. And over the past 18 months, I've probably put in around between 100 and 125 workouts. That's not going to seem like a lot to some of you, but it's a lot for me. And here's why. One of the things that makes it hard to teach guitar online is that since I started playing over 30 years ago, the longest I've ever gone without picking up my guitar is maybe 2 weeks. There was never a case where I went for 6 months or a year without playing guitar. But I get emails constantly from people who are coming back to the guitar after a decade, 2 decades away. It has been hard for me to relate to that because that has not been my experience with guitar. But what is similar in my life to that is my relationship with exercise and working out. I've never maintained a year-long exercise routine since I started this business. I believe that my history with working out has a lot of parallels to many of your journeys with guitar. I have discovered how to maintain a consistent workout discipline that has survived 2 surgeries, a bout with COVID, several sicknesses, and a couple trips. I'm going to go get this workout in, and when I come back, I'm going to share some of those thoughts. All right, as you can probably tell, I'm done with my workout now. It's about 2 hours later. And so that's 2 hours of my day that I've lost. And so the first thing that I want to talk about that I've learned is the issue of sacrifice. The simple fact is I spent a lot of years not exercising because I was waiting for a way to exercise that allowed me to do everything that I was doing when I wasn't exercising. And it's just, when you say it like that, it seems obvious, but some of you, when it comes to guitar, are trying to figure out a way that you can become a good guitar player without giving something up. I had to give something up, and I had to think about what that was that I was going to be giving up. And as soon as I came to grips with the fact that feeling the benefits of exercise is going to cost me 2 hours of my day 2 to 3 times a week. Period. End of story. That's what it costs. Once I was able to look at it objectively like that and accept when I go to the gym, I know what I'm giving up, but I know what I'm giving it up for, then I no longer wasted time thinking about how I was going to fit exercise into my day with all the stuff. I had to give stuff up. Things that I could have been doing for the past 2 hours, I'm not doing. I'm not shooting lessons. I'm not answering emails. I'm not planning new content, any of that stuff. I'm in the gym trying to get a different kind of benefit, and I've given something up to get there. Most of us act in a way that supports what we believe about ourselves. The great thing about being a human being is that you get to decide what kind of person you're going to be. You may not be able to change your physical attributes, but you can decide if you're going to be somebody who plays guitar or somebody who wishes they played guitar. You get to decide that. I just made a decision. I'm a person who works out. I'm a person who goes to the gym and lifts weights. That is who I am. Because I told myself so often that I am somebody who exercises, my mind started to believe it. And so as it relates to guitar, you need to decide, are you somebody who wants to play guitar, or are you a guitar player? If you are a guitar player, then you pick up the guitar and play regularly. You pick up the guitar and practice because that is what guitar players do. And so I don't know how many of you this applies to, but stop telling yourself that you're somebody who wants to learn guitar. Tell yourself that you are a guitar player. Tell yourself that multiple times a day. Tell it to yourself for days, into weeks, until you start to believe that you are a guitar player. And what happens is that as your mind begins to accept that identity, you will want to act in a way that supports that identity. You will want to practice because that is what guitar players do. So now, several hours later, I'm going to finish this video now. We had some torrential downpours that made it impossible to record in here because it was too loud. So I'm going to try and get through this before the rain starts up again. First thing, the next thing I want to talk about is inertia. So I don't know if you remember from school, inertia is the resistance that any object has to being moved. And once it's moving, inertia is the resistance it has to being slowed down. So if you've tried to push a car from a dead stop while it's in neutral, it's a lot more work to get it moving than it is to keep it moving. How this applies to our video is that if you are not currently practicing guitar regularly, it will take much more effort to start than it does to keep going. And this is important because I think we develop mental inertia. We are stuck. We are used to not doing this thing, and our mind resists changing. It resists starting this habit. And so if you want to become a guitar player, if you want to be a guitar player, just understand if you're coming off of a long break, you will experience the consequences of inertia. It will be hard to start because you've been still for so long. So fortunately, we don't have to just be subject to inertia. What got me over that initial hump, what got me out of my state of it, to overcome that inertia, was realizing how good it feels to have exercised. It doesn't feel good while you're doing it, but after you're done, it feels amazing. And so I thought about that goal. I want to feel good. I can feel good. I can feel strong. I could go up and down stairs without my knees hurting. And the more I thought about that goal, it was like that goal developed a gravity beam to pull me forward out of my complacency. So how this applies to your guitar journey is if you're having trouble being motivated to find a regular time to practice, forget about practice and think about the music. Immerse yourself in the music that you want to play. Allow that music to seep into your soul and to jolt you out of your complacency. Spend some time getting in the orbit of the place you want to go so that it can develop a gravitational pull on you to pull you along. But so far, this is all just talk and thinking. We haven't done anything yet. And one of the things I realize is that we like to pat ourselves on the back for thinking good thoughts. I can't even tell you how many Instagram reels of kettlebell exercises I've bookmarked over the years, and I barely have done them. It does not matter what you think about. It does not matter how many guitar lessons you watch if you don't practice. There is action that is required to be a guitar player. Starting is an emergency. It is entirely too easy to get wrapped up in doing everything around the habit we want to develop without actually doing it. The first time is going to require an act of defiance, as if it is an emergency. And so whether you are coming off of a years-long break without having done anything, or, as I talk about later, if you're coming off of an interruption to your schedule, the first time you come back, treat it as an emergency, something that you have to force to happen. You're not always going to have to treat it like an emergency, but that first time that you sit down with lessons and a guitar and you declare, this is my practice time, you need to treat that first time as if it's an emergency, because if you don't make it happen, you will wind up 2 months, 6 months, a year, and you will barely have played your guitar or practiced. And that's why I say treat it like starting is an emergency. Now, the nice thing is, once we've exerted that mental effort to get started, it does get better. It's hard the first time. The second time is a little bit easier. The third time is even easier than that. And once you're into your routine, now you've developed the muscle memory, the mental memory, the inertia of being in action. So it sucks to get started, but it's a lot easier to keep going. Now, another thing I learned is that you can be months into your discipline, your practice, and life can come at you sideways, and all of a sudden it becomes hard to be consistent again. And you think, oh, I'm past that already. It should be easy. But life happens, okay? So one of the mental tricks that I have learned is don't focus on being consistent at finishing your practice, or in my case, my workouts. Be good at starting. There is a book called The Now Habit by Neil Fiore, and one of the things he talks about, it's a book about procrastination and how to finish big projects. And he talks about how the fear of not knowing how to finish keeps people from ever starting. Someone who finishes a book in X amount of time had to choose to start every individual day that they worked on it. And even on the last day when you finish, you still have to start. And so his point is if you want to get out from under procrastination, on the days when it's hard, don't think about finishing. Think about the effort that it takes to just start. Because the trick that our mind plays when it decides to get lazy is that it tries to tell us how hard everything is going to be, and it's going to be miserable and this, that, and the other thing. But really, it's just fighting to stay away from the start. And so if you get good at starting your practice, if you get good at picking up the guitar, if you get good at just sitting down, put the guitar in your hand and strum a couple of chords, I promise you it will be easier to then continue on with your practice. Let your practice flow from the start. Don't obsess about the finish before you even get to the starting line. Now, those of you who are gym rats and you work out all the time, you're probably wondering, when am I going to talk about consistency? Well, that time is now. Because once I got into tracking my gains and all that kind of stuff, I started to wonder, how long could I go before I start to lose strength? Because I wanted to keep that curve moving up and to the right. I wanted my gains to continue to grow. And I found out that you can go about 10 days without losing much off of your max strength. But if you go longer than that, it starts to go away. Now, likewise with guitar, you will start to lose your picking accuracy. You will start to lose your endurance. You will start to lose your precision if you have too many days off. So consistency is what helps to keep those things locked in. Now, because this is the real world and not fantasy land, we have to talk about the very real topic of interruptions, things that you didn't see coming. In my case, it was catching COVID, then having a cyst that needed to be removed. It was benign, no concerns, but that interrupted my progress. And I had to repeat the whole mental starting thing all over again. As soon as I was able to work out, I had to treat it like an emergency and restart. So interruptions are going to happen. Prepare for the interruptions. Prepare for what's going to happen when life comes at you sideways. Think about, okay, this is my practice slot now, but if something were to happen where now got interrupted, where would be the next time in my schedule I could do it? So I have contingency plans for interruptions, and it's something that you should do for your guitar practice as well, so that these things don't catch you completely off guard and leave you scrambling. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is just make it easy for yourself to start. Back when I was in college and I was playing guitar multiple hours every day, I used to leave my guitar laying on the bed so that when I came home from class, it was right there, almost asking me to pick up and play. Now with working out, there's a couple of things that I do. I leave my workout bag in the car at all times. So as long as I get dressed, In my workout gear, everything else that I need is already there in the car. I don't have to prepare a big thing to get ready to work out. I've eliminated as much of the friction as possible. So you can do yourself a favor by setting up your practice area in a way that is conducive to literally sitting down, picking up the guitar, getting back into whatever lessons you're studying, and get back into it. Because your mind is always going to be looking for an excuse to punk out and to make excuses. But if you think about ways to reduce that friction ahead of time, it can go a long way towards helping you stay consistent. So that's my video about how my experience establishing a consistent workout routine can be used to help you establish a consistent guitar practice routine. I hope it was not too much of a stretch. I hope you found it useful. If you've watched all this way, you are a superstar. Like the video, subscribe, share it with a friend, but more importantly, go get that guitar and practice.